I was floored. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And it's funny. Ari had the fucking funniest reply. We texted it to a group of comics, and Ari wrote back, "Not clicking that. I'm sure it's like some black guy's cock." And we're like, "No, he's actually dead, Ari." And he's like, "Oh fuck, are you serious?" And because there's no way Norm would die.
I know. I totally get why he wrote that.
Yeah, and he's been dealing with it for 9 years.
Yeah.
His Netflix series, the Norm Show, whatever, where it was, I think it was called the Norm Show.
Yeah, Norm Macdonald has a show.
Yeah, where he interviews people was fucking brilliant. His internet show where he was with Adam and they would just interview celebrities was fucking brilliant.
Right.
Him he'd walk into the green room at the store.
Yeah.
And take it over, and not in like a
peacocking kind of way.
Yeah, but just in everyone wanted to listen to what he had to say.
Yeah. He just has charisma. He's got this kind of like, and he's also, what I love about him is that he doesn't, whatever your expectation is, he's like, he acts in a way that's going to defy that expectation. Whatever it is that you think he's going to say or do, he does the opposite. And that to me is like, I like what he said about it being braver to conceal everything. Because I'm the opposite. I'll tell people everything, right?
Me too.
Yeah. I just want people to know all my fucking business.
To a massive flaw for me.
Yeah. And it's like, that's my way into my own humor. But I envy that ability to like keep it all, to play everything close to the chest. You know, it's like, it reminds me of that fucking Sopranos, like the first episode of The Sopranos when Tony's like, what happened to all the Gary Coopers of the world? You know, and it's like, you battle with cancer for 9 years without telling anybody. Like, you're the Gary Cooper of comedy.
So great. That's the fucking normest way to go out.
Yeah.
Did you ever see his roast of Bob Saget?
Oh yeah. I was watching.
He was.
I haven't seen it in a while.
Well, the best part about it is I was a big podcast fan around that. I still am, but I listen to everyone. And there's a great bit online I was watching the other day, or today rather. And he was doing jokes. He was deconstructing jokes.
Right.
This, it's something very interesting because I was watching your jokes the other day. That you have a joke. I forget what the joke is. One of the ones you posted online. And I was like, fuck, man, I wish I had that premise. I would never have let go of that. I would have just chunked that up. I was like, she bailed out too quick. For me, I'm like, I would have done that would have been a 12-minute bit.
Which joke was it?
I don't know which one. I should go see which ones you posted.
Was it the suicide one?
I don't know.
It's there. There's one that I posted about wanting to that I called a suicide hotline, and like they said that suicide's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what I'm looking for. Was that the bit?
No, that's not the bit.
No.
I just typed in Norm.
It's totally understandable.
But Norm,
you're gonna get a much better joke if you search for that.
Norm changed the way I wrote. It had to be something. I don't know which joke it was, but it had to be one of you interacting with somebody, because it might have been you calling the suicide hotline. Mm-hmm. Because anytime I have an interaction, that is how I do material, and I chunk it up. So I was watching Norm, and I was saying, and so my instinct is always what I do, and then I look at other people and I go, oh yeah, sometimes the right move is to get in and out of a joke. Like when I watched your thing, I was like, oh, she left way so much meat on the bones. And then I was like, oh no, I bet she wrote that. And then was like, all that shit's just extra meat. Let me just tell you the joke.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the best way to approach it. So I was watching Norm when I did my last special. And I said, I loved how he could set up a traditional joke. Guy walks into a bar. Have you ever heard the joke? Have you ever heard the joke about the doghouse from Norm?
Which one?
This is my favorite joke. This is my favorite joke.
Not Hitler's dog, not that one.
Nope. This is my favorite. This is one of my favorite jokes ever. I have like a handful of favorite jokes.
Yeah.
Norm says, and this is the way Norm would do a joke. He would structure it as a traditional joke.
Yeah.
He goes, I got a new neighbor. I ran into him the other day. I said, hey, neighbor. He said, hey, Norm. And he said, so neighbor, what do you do? And the guy says, I work down at the school of logic. And he goes, you do? He goes, yeah, I'm a professor of logic. And he goes, what is that? And he goes, well, Norm, it's hard for me to explain. It's easier for me to explain to you. He goes, Norm, do you have a doghouse? He goes, you've never heard this joke?
No.
He goes, you have a doghouse? And Norm goes, I do. He goes, well, then, Norm, logically, I can deduce that you have a dog. And he goes, I do. And he goes, well, if you have a dog, then I'm assuming you got kids, Norm. And he goes, I do have kids. And he goes, well, then logically, I can assess that you're married. You married, Norm? And he goes, I am. And he goes, well, then logically, I can guess you're a straight male. And he goes, I am. And he goes, well, that's what I do, Norm. Norm goes, fascinating. So the next day he's out at the bus stop and Norm runs into another neighbor. And the neighbor goes, Norm, see, we get a new neighbor? And he goes, I did. And he goes, what does he do? Norm goes, well, he works down at the School of Logic. He's a professor of logic. The guy goes, what's that? And Norm goes, well, it's kind of hard for me to explain. It's easier for me to just show you. He goes, let me ask you something, friend. He goes, do you have a doghouse? He goes, I don't. And Norm goes, well, then you're a homosexual. So,
oh my God. So
I fell in love with that joke, and I fell in love with it so hard that I vowed to write. Like at first, I talked to Stanhope, and Stanhope was saying that he wanted to write. He was trying to write knock jokes. He's like, we should be able to write those, right?
Right.
Like we're funny. We're probably funnier than those guys.
Yeah.
And so I said, I want to write guy walks into a bar joke. Mm-hmm. Like I want to do a Norm joke. A guy who meets his new neighbor, but it's me. I want this. I'm going to tell it the way I tell a joke, but I want a guy who walks into a bar. And I had an interaction at Starbucks that was that. I walked into Starbucks 3 times, right? First time, second time, third time, and I just structured it that way, as in a guy walks into a bar, and I was so fucking proud of that joke. Yeah. But that's the beauty of what Norm did. And in this roast, he deconstructed roast jokes.
Yeah.
He said, Susie Essman's here. They say she's a vegetarian. I don't know. I think she's full of baloney. So like they weren't mean jokes. They were roast jokes, but they weren't very technically mean. And so he'd go, Bob Saget, let me tell you something. If you ever walk in to use a restroom and it says gentlemen, well, you can walk in there still. Like it was just like they say Cloris Leachman's over the hill. Not in the car I saw her driving in. She wasn't over the hill at all.
You're just like
it's like and Artie Lang said, so the next day Stern kind of trashed Norm and said Norm bombed on the Bob Saget roast. Mm-hmm. And
no.
And Artie Lang said, no, that was the bravest thing he could have done. And Stern was like, brave? And he goes, yeah, because idiots like you were going to think he bombed.
Right.
He didn't bomb. He killed for us.
Yeah.
And it was like all his jokes were like that. And then even Jim Norton comes out and he goes, Norm, watching you do stand-up is like watching Henry Fonda pick blueberries. And Norm had never seen On Golden Pond. And he goes, what? I think everyone would like to see Henry Fonda pick blueberries, right? Because he didn't get it. He was the fucking greatest.
Yeah, he's just like, he was just so, he was kind of a shit eater, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
like I like that. I like the willingness to just eat shit a little bit. And it's not when I say that, if you're doing it on purpose, it's not the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
I remember one of the jokes that I couldn't tell it like word for word, so I won't try. But there's a joke in Hitler's Dog where he says, he does this whole act out and he goes, the punchline is, can you put into the contract that I'm sad? And it's like that line alone as a performer is one of the funniest lines I've ever heard. Can you put into the contract that I'm sad? It just made me like, it's so funny. He's so good. He did the
ESPN ESPYs.
Yeah.
And he said Charles Woodson, I think, won the Heisman Trophy award. And he goes, Charles Woodson, congratulations on winning the Heisman Trophy Award. You know, no one can take that away from you. Unless, of course, you murder your ex-wife and a waiter. And you're just like... when the guy tried to fire him, when the guy fired him from that ran NBC.
When he came back to SNL?
No, the guy, he got fired from SNL, right?
Right, but he came back to host later.
He came back to host.
Yeah.
But the guy that fired him said, Norm, you're not funny. And Norm said, yeah, and you think OJ didn't kill his wife, so I'm not listening to you.
Yeah. I love it. And then when he comes back, I was watching the speech earlier today. He was like, he's on SNL hosting, and he's like, how did I go from being not funny enough to enter the building to funny enough to host the show? And he goes, the truth is, I didn't get funnier. The show is just not funny. And people are booing. You hear audible boos.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we got a bad show for you guys tonight. And he's like,
he had so many fucking jokes. I'm dedicating one of my Open Tabs episodes to just Norm jokes.
Yeah.
He goes, they say orange is the new black. Not in my building. Freddie's the new black. He has such, so last thing I'll say about Norm, but I had never met him. I was a huge fucking fan.
Yeah.
I'd never met him. And then he got in trouble with Netflix. He had the thing, and I don't even remember what he said. I really don't remember. Oh, he said that he supported Louis, and then he got in trouble.
Right. Yeah. That was it was like people were attacking him for, having nuanced perspectives.
Yeah. And he had tweeted me a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Artie had tweeted me for like weird things. I don't know. And I had met him. I had met him. I think I'd already met him.
Yeah.
And then I went out in support of him, and I put out a tweet saying, Norm Macdonald's the funniest guy. I don't know what I said, but
yeah.
And then he DM'd me, and he said, something very sweet, and said like this. And then I said, thanks, Norm. And then he just wrote back, and I texted Rogan and Segura and Ari, and I was like, dude, check out the text I just got from Norm Macdonald.
Yeah.
And they're like, holy shit, like, you fucking know Norm? And I was like, yeah. As soon as I said, yeah, I get a text from Norm. I hope I get to meet you one day. And I go, God damn it. So then I show it to them. So then the next text I send him is, hey man, we're doing a show for St. Patty's Day.
Mm-hmm.
For my special was airing on St. Patty's Day. And I was doing a huge multimedia event at the store to promote my special. Mm-hmm. And stay-at-home orders kicked in on like the 15th or the 13th.
Yeah.
So the morning of this that no one's leaving the house on the 17th.
Right.
Which turned out to be better for my special than anything I could have done.
Right.
And Norm texts me the morning of the 17th. He goes, I'm at the store ready to drink. Where are you? And I just wrote back, it's not happening. He goes, for real? Are you listening to those stay-at-home orders?